Welcome. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm presenting today on the traditional and unceded territories of the combined nations of the Nuu-chah-nulth, Kwakwaka'wakw, and Coast Salish traditions. And I invite you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional and unceded territories of your own communities. So welcome, we're really glad you've joined us to learn more about Magnet SWPP funding options presented by Vancouver Island Work Integrated Learning and Magnet. And we're really excited to share with you how we have partnered to make it even easier for employers to apply for Magnet SWPP funding in order to hire Work Integrated Learning students on Vancouver Island. I am Dana Neeland, and I am the Employment Engagement Facilitator for Vancouver Island Work Integrated Learning. And I will get started today by sharing a brief introduction of the collective partnership between North Island College and Vancouver Island University, that is Vancouver Island Work Integrated Learning, or what we like to call VIWIL. And then I will pass off to Amy and Nisreen, who will share about Magnet SWPP funding. And we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, which you can ask through your chat box. And we will we'll follow up with you with an email with a recording of today's webinar, as well as some funding resources. So moving on to share a little bit more about Vancouver Island Work Integrated Learning. So we're really excited to share with anyone who's not yet familiar about our collaborative project, Vancouver Island Work Integrated Learning, through North Island College and Vancouver Island University. So, and just a recap for anyone who's not familiar with what Work Integrated Learning is. Work Integrated Learning is essentially experiential learning, where students put into practice their class learning within a professional environment by being hired temporarily by a business, most typically for a paid opportunity. And Work Integrated Learning is really founded on a strong collaborative partnership between an academic institution, a student, and an employer. And through this partnership, we have an opportunity to really mentor the next generation of the workforce together by bringing in that fresh energy into the workforce and working together to really shape the next generation of the workforce on Vancouver Island. So there's two types of work integrated learning that North Island College and Vancouver Island University students engage in. That's cooperative education and internship. So cooperative education is a 420-hour opportunity, and it's always a full-time and a paid opportunity. And internship is a little bit more flexible. It ranges from around 180 to 360 hours, and it can be a full-time or a part-time opportunity and a paid or an unpaid opportunity. So if you are seeking temporary employees, Work Integrated Learning is a great fit. And it can also be a really good opportunity to vet a future potential hire. Students are bringing industry-specific training and really strong research capacities to the table. So if you have a back burner project or strategic planning initiatives that aren't being attended to due to a lack of time or human resources, Work Integrated Learning is a really great option. And then finally, our focus today is that there are benefits of being able to hire and access specialized funding grants for hiring Work Integrated Learning students. So we have collaborated to create Vancouver Island Work Integrated Learning, or VIWIL, and this is a partnership between North Island College and Vancouver Island University that's created in the spirit of enhancing opportunities for work integrated learning and connecting employers with students on Vancouver Island for all regions north of the Malahat. So we've got a new portal and it's where you can post opportunities, and these opportunities will reach both students that are at both institutions. And in addition to the creation of our new portal, which you can find at www.viwil.ca, this is also a hub, a one-stop resource where you can find resources to support with all of your hiring needs. resources to support with onboarding, funding options, and we also have an on-demand webinars available for you. So when you log on to www.VIWIL, the first step is to register your business, and then there will be an option to apply directly for Magnet SWPP funding through the portal. And then you will post your opportunity, and you will receive applications of interest and interview and hire just as you would for hiring for a permanent role. So here's just a quick look at the steps to apply directly for Magnet SWPP funding on the VIWIL portal. So first you will log in and create an account. And once you have an account and you've logged in, you'll see a scrolling banner on the home page with an option to apply directly for Magnet SWPP funding, the little blue button, Apply Now. You'll hit there and you'll be taken directly through the process. So again, our portal is www.viwil.ca. You can stay in touch with us by email through info@viwil.ca. And thank you so much for following us on our socials. And it is a pleasure to help to connect you with student talent on Vancouver Island. So now I will pass off to Amy and Nisreen.
Thank you, Dana. That was really great. It was a really great walkthrough and really thorough. So appreciate that. And hopefully everyone on the call is caught up now. I'm going to start off with reading our land acknowledgement as we're presenting from Ontario, Toronto, Ontario to be exact, and where Ryerson University is located. And because Magnet is a trademark of Ryerson and we operate out of Ryerson University, I'll go ahead and do that. So Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans and all newcomers, have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. So with that being said, we can go ahead and get started. We're talking today and exploring and showcasing the Magnet Student Work Placement Program. Wage subsidies available to employers who are hiring students for meaningful work opportunities, or for WIL, as Dana had explained earlier. And we wanted to mention and kick things off by saying that Magnet is not the only delivery partner of the Student Work Placement Program, but Magnet has partnered with VIWIL. And in doing so, there's some perks to this, definitely some really great customer service that comes along with that partnership. And there's also placements held in the spirit of that partnership. So currently, we are experiencing a high volume of employers who are very interested in continuing the Student Work Placement Program. It's worked out super well for them, and they've been quite happy with not only the process, but with the wage subsidy itself. But there's lots of people eager to get started and to hire for the summer. So luckily, working with VIWIL and being a member or collaborating with VIWIL will definitely get you a spot into that program. So we can go ahead and get started with the agenda. So let's talk a little bit about Magnet and VIWIL. We did mention a little bit about that partnership already. We're just going to recap that piece. We'll talk about the Student Work Placement Program in general and give you some scenarios as to what you could sort of expect and how you could put your foot forward into the program if it's your first time. Supporting employers and what that looks like, and that application support as well, and then what your next steps would be, and we'll save some time for Q&A at the end as well. So Magnet is a social innovation platform co-created by Ryerson and started in 2014. It actually started out of the DMZ, which is one of the most well-known incubators in the world. And since then, it's sort of done its own thing and explored lots of different avenues in the spirit of advancing careers, communities, and businesses in Canada. So we want to essentially accelerate and help establish programs that support inclusive economic growth. And in doing so, it helps Canadian students, businesses, communities, industry organizations, everybody who really plays in that ecosystem of economic growth and business and student learning, really bringing them together through technology and through programming. And VIWIL is a perfect fit for that. So we're a proud partner of VIWIL. The Magnet Student Work Placement Program, bringing together employers, students, and post-secondary schools. So all these different stakeholders really are part of creating a quality experience for students who want to participate in work integrated learning opportunities. And WIL programs are a really great way to actually prepare the workforce. So you can imagine that a student who had not completed a WIL placement, for example, graduating and did not have the work experience, that really impacts their ability to get hired, and it really impacts the ability to support the early talent pipeline of our future, of the future of work in our country. So really this type of programming allows students to get the exposure and the experience they need, acquire those real skills, and get a sense of their environment, and for working for an employer that allow them to meet demands and, you know, the rapid pace at which the labor force is changing. And they do so through a co-op opportunity, an internship, a work experience, etc. So that would be point number one. And then in point number two, as to why the Magnet Student Work Placement Program, or what it's about rather, is, you know, the program actually provides funding and reimburses employers up to $7,500, which is a really handsome amount. It's very generous. If anybody's ever heard of the Canada Summer Jobs Grant or any other sort of grants available, this is one of the highest ones out there, I'd say. Some of them are usually around the $5,000 mark. So this funding is on a first come, first served basis, and obviously it's done so on the conditions and the terms and the policies of the program and whatnot. But working with VIWIL, like I mentioned, you kind of have a better in with the program, and through the partnership, you're really well supported from a customer service perspective. From like if you're submitting an application, for example, there's a lot that we want to make sure that you go through, but we're there to support you every step of the way. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to my colleague Amy, who's going to take you through some scenarios. Amy's had a lot of exposure to the Student Work Placement Program, and the two of us have worked together on a national program similar to VIWIL, but it's across the country and supporting chambers of commerce coast to coast to coast. And we've helped their employers access these subsidies, and we've done so for over a year now. So we've had a lot of experience on the ground in different communities, and I'll let Amy take you through some that we've put together here for you today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ring. And I just want to touch on the point that Ms. Ring was making about how you do have that added support as being a part of the VIWIL membership. I will actually be picking up the applications when you apply, so that you do get off of that wait list, and that your applications are processed for the summer right away. And I know I spoke to Dana earlier this week, and we were saying it's usually a 24-hour turnaround. So you do really have that support from their team as well as our team on the back end with your applications. So the first scenario I'm going to get into is being a local shop. You can be a retailer in digitizing operations, websites, and e-commerce. We tried to do different scenarios because with our partnership, as Ms. Reed mentioned, there are other delivery partners of the Student Work Placement Program that have different names. However, with our program, we accept students that are in any program of study that have that co-op component. So it's not just for specific students that are taking a technology or a business degree, for example. So our first one will be about a local shop owner named Bob, and he's hiring a graphic design student for the entire winter semester. So that would be, we split up our semesters based on the student semesters at school. So in Toronto, I'm not sure what it's in BC, but our winter semester is January 1st to March 31st. And he's hiring them for the full term to build a website for their business. So Bob actually has the financial capacity to pay the full $10,000 for 3 months of full-time work, and he'd be reimbursed for $7,500 for the student hire. And the second scenario, it's a post-secondary institution that's looking to hire a student to help complete their field placement or their internship, which is necessary to become a clinical researcher. So the student is going to be paid a sum of $5,000 for their work throughout the semester. So they may not have such a rigid schedule as the example in number one. They might be working 2 hours on a Monday, 8 hours on a Wednesday. It's not a typical 9 to 5 full-time employment job. So they would be able to receive $3,750 back in wage subsidies for that placement. And then the last example is about business law, engineering, technology, and more. I always use accounting as this example because I think it really shows that some businesses do truly have a very specific busy season where they need to bring on a student to assist them, and they can pull in that co-op student to complete their hours during that busy time. So for this example, it's an accounting agency. They're hiring a business management student on a short-term basis. So they only need to have them work with them from February 1st to March 15th to assist with their busy season. The agency is going to pay the student $3,500 for the placement, and they'd be eligible to receive $2,625 back in wages from the SWPP program. So as you can see, it really is not a one-stop kind of grant program. It really is a program that allows you, the employer, to tailor the grant and the placement assistance to what your business specifically needs.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, so on that note, just so everybody on the call knows, Magnet is not an industry-specific delivery partner. So the government is, the Economic and Social Development of Canada is the ministry that has sort of come up with the SWPP program, and we're one of the delivery partners. And there's also many other delivery partners that are carrying out the program. However, many of them are industry-specific, which means that TechNation, for example, would be funding opportunities that are specific to information technology. Whereas Magnet, I call it the catcher's net, is not specific to industry. So it makes it quite easy for employers to apply because they don't have to read the fine print to see if they're eligible based on what the job type is or what kind of company that they're applying from. So supporting employers in this process, because it is a catcher's net, is a little bit easier up front, and they can put their hat in the ring without any hesitation in that sense, as long as they meet the eligibility requirements and the requirements of the actual program in terms of documentation and filling out the application. So the very first thing that we're going to start off with in terms of how we can support you and how we can direct you is, of course, visiting the VIWIL website. That's your first stop shop, I guess you could say. And when you get there, you'll be directed to sign up for the platform. And you can follow Dana's steps here of apply now when you sign in and after you've created your account and confirmed and all that good stuff. And when you do that, you have the option of creating the job posting or applying for funding. Now, if you create the job posting first, at the end of the job posting, what they'll ask you is, did you know you qualify for funding? And then you will have the option to actually apply for funding in the same sitting. So you'll be able to post the job and apply for the funding at the same time, or within the same, let's say, 20 minutes. And that's the great part about that. Now, if you've already posted the job or you need to do it in 2 separate instances, you can also do that too. Saving you a step, create the job posting would be our recommended action, because once you created the job posting and then you apply for funding in the same sitting, some of your information will actually get carried over. So it saves you a few boxes to have to fill out. But we definitely recommend having sort of a job description in a Microsoft Word document or in a notepad somewhere so that you can always copy paste should you need to. And make sure that you always save as you go along, because the program does time out like any web page. So yeah, once you apply for the funding, you can use Outcome Campus Connect to also do that application. So it's quite a great platform in that sense. And then employers who've secured their hire through the Outcome Campus Connect platform can actually, the employers that have actually applied for the Outcome Campus Connect wage subsidy can continue to check in on their application in that same platform. So this is the place where you're hiring. This is the place where you're applying for funding. It's the place where you're coming back to check on the status of your application and check messages from our support team if you need anything done, or if you need to have any questions or things looked at in terms of your documentation and any back and forth. That is part of the application process. It's all being done from the same platform. So it's a one-stop shop.
And it's really user-friendly. I'm in it every day, and on the dashboard, as the employer will actually see a section where all the jobs that you've posted are found, and then a separate section where all of your applications for the wage subsidy are found. So it makes it really easy for you to make sure that whenever you are communicating about your wage subsidy, that the ID numbers are all there, and you aren't getting mixed up with multiple applications or multiple job postings, because they're all separated individually for you.
Thanks, Amy. So the application support for employers is really great. So we have email, phone support. We even do Zoom sharing sometimes for employers that would prefer to actually see a screen share. And we allow this, or we sort of support this process for our partners and also for standard applications as well, to make sure that everybody has what they need to get things done. We provide reminders about deadlines, and we communicate and clarify accordingly the program requirements and the eligibility that is sort of in accordance to that. Amy and myself, and we have a very big team at Magnet that do this, and we have lots of structures in place to make sure that our employers are supported. We've been doing this for over 2 years now, supporting the SWPP program, so definitely not our first walk in the park. And I wouldn't say that it's the easiest program necessarily. There are quite a few requirements that the ESDC, or the Economic Social Development of Canada Ministry, does have in place, such as submitting pay stubs and invoices and things like that. But it's fairly straightforward at the same time. So there is I wouldn't say there's quite a bit. I'd say there's an onus on the employer to also provide proof of payment and all the stuff that really would go into proving and providing that documentation that's going to give them 75% or $7,500 back of what they put into that student's placement. Okay. I think there's one more for this. I can't remember actually. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. So your next steps for summer 2021, I'll actually pass this off to Amy because Amy is a pro on the summer 2021 wave.
Thanks, Nazreen. So throughout the presentation, we were hoping that being on the call today, the first step is to understand your SWPP needs. So with those examples that I talked to you a little bit earlier, do you need somebody full-time? Do you need somebody for the entire placement? Do you need somebody just to come in and do a quick cleanup? With COVID, there's been a lot of businesses that have had to revert to an online e-commerce kind of base that they didn't have set up before. So maybe you just need a student to come in and do that revamp for you really quickly for the month of August before they head back to school in the fall, for example. So determine your SWPP needs. I also encourage employers, just because you see that shiny $7,500 that you could receive, always make sure that you are not going above your means, because with the wage subsidy, you're not paid out the grant until after the placement is completed. So it's not a grant that you're going to be getting before the placement is done, or in incremental payments throughout. You do receive the funding at the end of the placement once all of the documents have been received, reviewed, and approved. So I always want to make sure that employers understand their own financial needs and that they have the payments necessary to pay the student for that entire placement. As we mentioned, sign up. Signing up is very easy. I will give a little tip to this one because I do work in the system a lot. When you create an application, it's associated with the email and the password that you create the application with. So if you are a business and you share an administrative account and you have a password that you can share, I encourage that, because if somebody is to leave the company and the application's under Amy DePalma and my personal email account, the person who comes in to take over for me will never be able to find the applications when they sign in if they don't have those credentials. They can create a different account and apply for another funding grant, but they wouldn't see that application that had already come through and made it to a certain stage. So just a little tip, when you do create your account, if you are a business, to use one of those info@ email addresses, something that you can share among a couple of members of your staff to make sure that somebody always knows what's going on with the application. As Nazreen mentioned, posting your job first if you're using Outcome Campus Connect to find your students, to connect with that student talent. It really is, it's very, very easy to follow the steps on the side. There's a little wizard guide that shows you everything that you need, and you even have the ability to select the program of study as well as schools that you would like to target for your students. So if you know that there is a student out in Vancouver that is well known for one of the programs that you would like to hire a student from, you can specifically target that co-op office through Outcome Campus Connect to have those students apply for you to interview. And then at the same time, you can apply for funding. Always remember that you don't need to have your student before you apply for funding. So that's why we encourage you to post that job and do the application at the same time. Employers can be pre-approved prior to having students. So I have many applications that come through where the employer has not hired a student. That doesn't make them go any lower on my application processing system. It just means that they need to enter in their student information once they have hired a student. I know that it's the middle of June, but there is still lots of time to hire a student for the summer because the placements do run until the end of August. If there are any employers on the call today, I also want to mention that if you have hired a student already, you can apply and receive that payment from May 1st until August 31st. So just because you've already been paying them and you haven't applied for the grant, you would apply for the grant and receive that retroactive payment for that payment between that eligible funding period.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into Q&As now, guys. So there's been a few questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and address a question. I'll do two birds with one stone, nonprofits and, I guess you could say environmental nonprofit. Yeah, so nonprofits are able to apply. They are eligible. There were some COVID-19 considerations in the past. There is something that I did want to update you on. So when this program initially started, its intention was to be a business growth and economic development initiative. And when COVID-19 happened and the pandemic hit, things changed. And the government decided that they wanted to open this up to hospitals and post-secondary institutions to participate as well. Even though they are federally funded, they did want to open it up to those types of organizations. Now things are going and reverting back to the way they were before COVID in some regards. So hospitals right now are not qualified, but nonprofits will continue to be and will always be an organization that is able to apply for these types of positions. So it's a Canadian business, Canadian organization, any of those things work. And as Amy mentioned, when you actually post the job, there's lots of different options from the setup wizard. They ask you, what program of study you're looking for, so you can actually get the specialized skills you're looking for from a student. And because this platform itself is specific to students, you're not going to be getting people applying who are not in the student space, i.e. a current student or a recent grad. Both are on the platform. So be sure to vet your students in that sense that they have to be a current student enrolled in a program at the time of the placement in order for them to be qualified. And in the sense of, Jennifer's question that I see here, does the student have to be in a co-op program? Well, they can do both. They can have a mandatory co-op program or a mandatory WIL component to their curriculum, or some students who don't actually have a mandatory component can actually walk into their co-op office or walk into their WIL office and say, hey, I'd love to add this to my programming. That works as well. So I'm going to use myself as an example. Back when I was a student, just a few years ago, I had the option actually of completing a WIL type, but it was not mandatory in my program, but I could have completed it. I would have just extended my graduation by 1 semester. So students are able to do that. They just have to get that proof of enrollment of being in a WIL program from their co-op office. And essentially what this is, it depends on the different program, of course, and maybe if it's a nursing program, it's very obvious that they have to complete a practicum of some sort. If it's a business student, for example, like myself, it would have been listed as something like a work experience. The point is that an employer can essentially choose. So it can be anything from business, engineering, environmental studies. There's a whole long list of different programs and areas of studies that employers can target to get the specialized skills that they'd like, in addition to the schools. And for this case and for VIWIL in this partnership, the schools are obviously going to be focused on Vancouver Island. Like they're going to be supporting that region. So.
Oh, sorry,
go ahead.
I'm just going to add to that quickly. And then when you are applying and completing the application, it will actually ask you to select the type of work experience or the type of work integrated learning that you are going to provide in your placement. So if you would only choose co-op if the student has that mandatory co-op. If it's a student who, as Nazreen mentioned, is completing a work experience that they've decided to add on to their course schedule, then that would be considered a work experience. It's not something that is mandatory. So I know that at the beginning of the call, Dana mentioned co-ops as well as internships. So those are the types that are what usually mandatory, that have a specific set of hours that the student needs to have on site in order to graduate from their program and get that credit for their co-op credit.
Thank you. Yeah. Sandra's question here, I'd like to just shed a light on this one and maybe just ask Dana to lean in as well. Would an organization in the NIC area ask for an NIC student? The answer to that is just that the employer, like an employer can hire a student from any institution across the country really, and they can even hire remotely to participate in the SWPP program. But as it relates to VIWIL, I just want to make sure that that's correct.
Yes, that is correct. So you can hire a student from a different region if that's a fit for your organizational need.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then another question from Jennifer is that they have a student in their first year, not a co-op and not a co-op or a WIL, and they're looking for a work experience. In this instance, that would be the case where the student would go into their co-op office or approach their, work integrated learning office and say, hey, I'd like to complete this work experience. Could you give me a credit for that? Or could I get a work experience, a letter from the office? And they do this quite often. Lots of institutions will do this for their students, where they actually provide a proof of enrollment letter saying that this student is going to be participating in XYZ over the summer months to get work experience towards their degree or whatever the case would be. So it's something that the student also has to work out with their administration to ensure that they are eligible, in the sense that they can provide proof of enrollment, as in they are currently enrolled in XYZ program and participating in that program's WIL type. You can direct the student to apply to the opportunity and to create an account on the Outcome Campus Connect platform. So Outcome Campus Connect is the name of the platform, and Magnet, in partnership with ESDC, Economic and Social Development of Canada, and our technology provider, our technology partner, have developed the platform. And this platform has actually been funded to be used across all delivery partners in Canada. So all delivery partners actually have to use the platform to some degree. And in terms of using it as the tool to apply for the platform, that's something that Magnet has choosingly decided to do, along with some other delivery partners. And how it works with the post-secondary institutions is that post-secondary institutions actually partner with Outcome Campus Connect. So they become a partner of Orbis, which is our technology partner. And what happens is that co-op office, or that WIL office, will have an instance inside of Outcome Campus Connect where they now, instead of having a private job board like many schools used to, and this is still very prominent to this day, many schools have their own job board. So if you go to UBC's website, they might have a job board for their students, and how employers would have to interact with that job board is a little bit archaic, in the sense that let's say a larger employer would want to be looking for students for the summer. Let's say they want to hire 20 students or 10 students, and they want to target many schools. They'd have to go in and create an account at UBC, at Thompson, at whatever universities and colleges they really want to target. But they'd be creating an account at each of them, and then posting the job on each of them, and then coming back to each of those job boards to manage that job application process. Whereas Outcome Campus Connect and the technology that we've made together, Magnet and Orbis, with the support of ESDC, has streamlined the whole operation. And what that means is, instead of having everybody in a separate funnel, Outcome Campus Connect brought everyone together. And now it's one giant job board that's managed by the configuration that the employer is actually putting forward when they post the job and when they're looking for that student. So instead of me going to each school, I'm just going to Outcome Campus Connect and picking from a drop-down list of schools. I'm picking from a drop-down list of programs. I'm picking from the pool of students that all exist by default because their co-op office has partnered. So the technology is actually integrated now into the co-op office of all these partnered schools. So everybody's all in one system. And that's kind of what Magnet's all about at the end of the day, is bringing together all these different stakeholder groups and making things easier through technology and powering that whole process through a single platform.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nisreen and Amy. I
You're
think,
welcome.
do we have another last question?
Yeah, one more question. Can they access all the jobs and see what? Yes, that's correct. So students actually also have a really great value proposition to be members of the Outcome Campus Connect platform, because they can actually see jobs that are targeted for students. And that's what's really great about this program, and what's really great about this platform is they're not on Indeed and they're not on LinkedIn competing with all different sorts of groups of people. The jobs that are posted to Outcome Campus Connect are really for students and recent grads. And that's the best part that makes it really valuable for students, is that they at least know they have a really good chance, and that's who the employer is looking for. They're looking for them. I do want to put a little reminder that students do need to be domestic students. I just want to put a really firm stamp on that. Unfortunately, they cannot be international students, and the students can be full-time, part-time, that's no problem, but they need to be a citizen or have their PR or have that refugee protection status as well. That works too. Okay.
Great, fantastic. I'll jump in just to tie things up with one last bit of information. If you do want to get a good look at all of the programs that North Island College and Vancouver Island University students engage in work integrated learning, you can access that through our portal www.VIWIL. And we have a full list there of all of the programs that students engage in here on Vancouver Island in the central and northern regions. And Nisreen and Amy, that was just fantastic, so thorough, so much information. If there are lingering questions, what would be the best way for employers to get those answered with you?
So yeah, great. Like, we have our summer program right now, and that's available, that's open. So if you have anybody that's interested in learning more or potentially applying for the summer program, they can go to the VIWIL website and log in, create an account, and actually be directed to apply for the program directly. There's a program overview on the website, so it already details out everything you need to know when you're about to post your job or about to actually put forth an application for funding. All of that stuff is available and online. And then furthermore, I can actually drop a link in the panelists and attendees chat box here. SWPP.magnet.today is the website that you can go to for anything to do with SWPP as it relates to Magnet running the delivery, being a delivery partner for that program. And there's always updates, and there's always, there's actually really great material in the blog. We have testimonials, we have a whole bunch of different stuff. And if I think of anything else to send over to Dana, I will definitely share some PDFs and some documentation as it comes up, and it might be something really great to sort of just pop in and say, here's
Wonderful.
a really great
And then I know we're over, but I just answered Sandra's question really quickly. Fall is not currently open, Sandra, but it will be open shortly. And we will be sending a list out to, you can check the website, or you can contact Dana, and then she'll be able to let you know that it is open, because we'll let Dana know when it's open for fall as well.
Great, fantastic. Thank you everyone so much. And again, we will follow up with everyone with a recording of today's webinar, so you have it all for you fresh, and you can also access it. We'll put it up on www.viwil, so you can access that on demand as you need it, and we'll follow up with some more funding resources for you as well. Thank you so much for everyone for attending, and certainly reach out if you have more questions. Have a great day.